Good morning, everybody.
Hi.
Good morning. Hi. Thanks for joining us. You've all joined without your videos on, but if you would like to put them on, we'll be delighted to see your faces. So feel free. Lovely to see so many of you join us today. We'll just give a minute for others to join, and then we'll crack on and get started. Thanks for being on time and punctual. I see some great, I see some names I recognize. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Anya. Nice to see you all. Just got one more minute and then we will dive in to Insurtech overwhelm. Brilliant to see you all here. Wonderful. Anybody fancy going on video? Look at your fabulous faces. Let's just check who's not on mute. Sarah, you are a co-host, so if we have any interaction from different microphones, etc., please feel free to work on that. Good morning, Miss Stanway. I can see you there in the corner. Hi. Right, everybody. Well, I'm sure we'll get a few people join as we go through, but let's kick off because we've got some amazing conversation to have. And as always, it's always pretty tricky fitting everything in anyway. So a massive, massive welcome today to our EDII webinar, where we're featuring DXC and also Virtual Technologies. So I'm Caroline Bedford. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of EDII, which is an innovation and digital transformation company that helps people and businesses get to the heart of those challenges in the insurance industry and in fact beyond. I was previously part of the senior leadership team at DXC, and I'm delighted to say that DXC is actively partnering with EDII as a sponsor for our flagship program, Digital Mind. Now, DXC plays a big part in the transformation of the insurance market and the insurance industry. And the volume of startup and scale up Insurtech companies offering solutions, offering services, it's certainly sizable. I'm delighted to be joined by two of my former colleagues today. We have Maria Solano, who is Chief Technology Officer at DXC for EMEA, and also Richard White, who is Head of Sales. And they'll both be sharing their insights into how DXC tracks and filters those Insurtechs, those that can add value to them and their clients, and also how they go about managing that selection process. We're also joined today by one of those Insurtech partners who's been through that selection process. Welcome to Ryan McGovern. Hi, Ryan. And Ryan is the Chief Product Officer of Virtual Technologies. Ryan's going to share a bit about that experience, the value that Virtual and DXC both give and receive, and he's going to give that perspective from that other side of the partnership fence. So please do ask any questions via the chat today as the session progresses. We'll have time to go through them towards the end, and please make it as interactive as you'd like. And now, without further ado, I'll hand over to Richard White from DXC, who'll get us started.
Thank you, Caroline. Good morning, everybody. So I think Caroline slightly oversold my input on the day, but basically what I'm going to do is just give you a little bit of an overview of what we're going to run through over the next 45, 50 minutes, talk a little bit about DXC, talk a bit about our Insurtech program and why we do an Insurtech program. And then I'll hand over to Maria, who will walk through that in a little bit more detail as to how we run that program and how we manage identification and selection of some of the great organizations we've got working within our portfolio. And then Ryan will pick up actually running through the experience of working with us. So quickly, what did DXC do? For those of you who don't know, I can see quite a few of my colleagues on the call as well, so they obviously know what we do. For those of you who don't know what we do, we provide orchestration services to the London market to allow the members and MGAs, brokers, carriers within the market to interact with each other on an effective way to deliver world-class services that Lloyd's and the London market deliver back out to their customers. So we're very much the glue that sort of holds that marketplace together today, providing infrastructure and services. And in that role, which we have done for many, many years, we're obviously always looking to try and bring new technologies, new capabilities to this market to help the market move forward and better serve their end customers. And in doing that, DXC runs an Insurtech program to sort of trawl across all those new organizations that are starting up and bringing new capabilities to see where the advantages for the market might be in those new technologies as they get developed. So we run an Insurtech program specifically with insurance, but we also do it across many other sectors as well, looking for new technologies that help those other customers we have in the various other sectors we operate in. So that Insurtech program has been running for a number of years, and probably at this point is worth me handing over to Maria, who will now run you through what we do specifically in the insurance Insurtech program to identify those new customers. So Maria, if I can hand over to you.
Thank you, Richard, and good morning, everybody. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
So thank you, Caroline and everybody for inviting me. I was delighted when I was asked to present this to you all. So as Caroline said, Maria Solano, I'm the EMEA Insurance CTO, and the DXC Invitational is a program that we started a few years back, and as Richard mentioned, the reason we started it is we were targeting late-stage startups and scale-ups for innovation. And the reason for this is because any organization has a mass budget you have for innovation and research. There's always more that can be done. So we went out into the market looking for the top innovators and help us create joint solutions to key industry problems. And the reason why this program has been successful is because we all benefit from this ecosystem. The Insurtechs benefit in that they get access to the DXC clients. We co-innovate together, we integrate with our offerings, but we also know how to integrate with other offerings, with other vendors, or with other technologies, because that's what we do. And that creates new opportunities for all of us. From the client perspective, one of the things that I often hear from them is it's very difficult for clients to manage all the various relationships they have in their own ecosystems, and also adding Insurtech into that makes it difficult. So what we do is doing that search, that research, and get all the key innovators in the industry ready to be engaged for those clients. We do pre-integrated solutions. We also manage the relationship by creating legal conditions, relationships are established, etc. So we believe that's a benefit, and the client has echoed that to us many times. We also have a template for a process that ensures that we get the right people engaged. Okay, so the process is very briefly there. We have a process by which we invite many Insurtechs to participate, and then we shortlist them, and we're given the opportunity to do pitch on the day, and then we select the winners. Once the winners have been selected, then we go through the process of onboarding them into our own organization as partners. Yeah. So this has been going on, as Richard has said, across many industries, but this is specific to the insurance industry, and it's global. So in the probably about 4 years where we've been running the DXC Invitational, we have already onboarded about 95 new Insurtechs and we have been working, and I'm still working with 95 of them. 10 of them have been integrated into our portfolio. And not all of them, that doesn't mean the other ones we don't do business. It's simply it's not applicable for them to be integrated into our own offerings or portfolios. It's simply they can be sold standalone, and it makes more sense to do that. So, and there's still integrations happening as we speak. But my hope is that Ryan will tell you a little bit more about how that works and how that feels from the Insurtech perspective in a few minutes. So this is about the last invitational that has taken place, which was in Europe in February this year. So it is important to understand that the way we do this is that over the years, we have created a very comprehensive list of all the Insurtechs that we have been able to find and identify as potential. Because remember, we say advance, start up, and scale up. So because in this world, sadly, lots of people will start but never go anywhere and start and finish very quickly. So we're looking for people that have the ability to stay there for longer, but also they have the right backing, not just financially, but also from the perspective, have they got the right technology brain and the right business brain behind it? Because we do not want to start and embark on something that we don't feel it has the potential to be successful. So we have that list, and we maintain that list of over 1,000 Insurtechs. But we also then, when we run an DXC invitational, we also look for those Insurtechs that are more relevant to the region. They have the presence in the region, and also they have the most relevant solutions for that region, whatever that may be. So we did all of that, and then we had 34 applicants. Those then go through a further process of filtering, where we have experts from all over the world who understand not just the industry, but also this process, the DXC Invitational, what we're looking for. And we read all the information like I said. We ask for very specific information for each one of those Insurtechs, and they provide quite a lot of information that we filter. We have at least 3 people reading each one of those, and we score them. So we got through a very comprehensive process to select the 10 that we then onboard into the process, and we invite to participate into that event where they pitch to experts in the industry. So the judges are not DXC judges. There may be 1 or 2 DXC persons in the panel, but always we look for clients, people in the industry that have the expertise and can give us and help us select the right Insurtechs. So once we've done that, they have the opportunity, all the 10 selected Insurtechs have the opportunity to present to a panel of judges, and then we select 4 finalists that then have the opportunity to present to a well-advertised, well-covered market in a public event. So that's the process. And just to give you an idea of the kind of and the caliber of Insurtechs that came up, you may have come across some of these before, but it is also the variety, not just in terms of the technology, the innovations, but also the representation of the various aspects of the industry. You have anything from vehicle inspection, which is very specific to the P&C car insurance market, but you also have others that are a little bit more generic, like Penny.io, which is focused on selling insurance online anywhere. And the variety is tremendous, and it's very good. And I feel very privileged to be able to not just read what these innovations are, but also to be able to interact with this caliber of innovation and know-how. So in 2021, you recognize some faces, and some faces also would recognize themselves here. So we have people that you have seen before. We were incredibly lucky to have them give up a whole day of their own time to support this. So it's really hopefully testament of the importance that people place onto the Insurtech and to bring that innovation into the industry. So you can see it was well represented by many people in the industry. And then, of course, we have Caroline. How can we have an event like this without Caroline being participating and hosting? So then the criteria that we followed during that event was we gave scores between 1 and 10. And we were looking for exceptionally compelling propositions. And remember, we had already done quite a lot of filtering at this stage. We were looking for people that were not just the quality of presentation, but also the quality of the presenters, and very importantly, how well they convinced us and how well they responded to the Q&As, because the presentations are well rehearsed, the Q&As aren't, and that was important to us. They have ambitious but realistic growth strategies, and also we were looking for something that wasn't going to be taking years to implement or to bring into the industry. So we had 4 selected, and obviously one had to win. And it's always difficult when you have something like this that had to be filtering so much, but it was commonly agreed by all the judges that Virtual Eye Technologies was the winner, not only because of the quality of the presenters and the presentation, because they were able to answer the questions, because clearly they were established already as a company, already had some clients and that they were delivering services to, but also because their services are very relevant to the industry and the people that were participating in this, and furthermore, they were ready to be integrated very easily to products, our own offerings, but also we can see that they could be very easily integrated to any policy administration or claim administration system. And because of that, they were the winners. And I hope you're going to see them now, and I hope you can see firsthand that the reason why they were selected. So please, Ryan, if you would like to take over now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. Maria, just very quickly, before we do move on, there's just a question that's come in for you specifically.
Okay.
What are your plans for your next invitational? Is the date set? And if not, how might it be publicized?
So one of the things that happened last year is we were running these events normally physically. So last year we were going to run this, and we were going to have all the presenters coming to our London Innovation Centre and make it into a physical event, but we had to turn it all around and make it all virtual. So now what we are looking at is how we're going to run it, and because that opens the horizon, so you can run it anywhere. You don't have to run an event in Europe in London or anywhere central London. You don't have to travel. So we're looking at how we're going to maximize the fact that now we are totally virtual and make sure that the next event is run and we widen the participation even further. So that's still being established, but my hope is that there will be one next year. And what I don't know is where and when just yet.
But we'll be able to publicize that and share that when it's planned. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that insight there, Maria, onto how DXC selects the partners. And as you said, fantastic now to hand over to Ryan, who will be able to share your insight into your own experience. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Maria.
So Maria, if you'd just like to stop sharing your screen now, that would be great.
I was just about to do that.
Perfect.
All right. Okay, everyone. So I hope you can see my screen. My name is Ryan McGovern. So I'm here, as the ladies kindly put in front of you, to talk about, from the Insurtech side, what is it like to be part of this program, and why is it important for the market to be part of what DXC is trying to do to cut through the noise. To do so, I'll do it really in 3 parts. Start off by talking about the problem that we're trying to address, to show you that it's something that DXC recognized was important to be addressed in the market. then our solution for that, how it's evolving, all like that, to show how it can actually treat that problem. And then lastly, we'll talk about our experience with Invitational, what it meant to us, what we've benefited from it, and why this particular partnership was of more benefit to us than other things that we have been involved with. So Virtual Technologies, we're making the world a better place for property and casualty insurers, brokers, intermediaries. We do that by giving them visibility to all risks and all claims as quickly and cost effectively as possible, to help further the industry's transition from good faith-based underwriting and claim settlement to data-based dynamic decision-making. So we're here today with EDII and DXC because we were selected as part of that DXC Insurtech Invitational in Europe earlier this year, with both Caroline and Maria being involved in that, and Caroline hosting, Maria one of the judges. I see Elaine in the participant list as well. She was also one of the judges, again, one of these people who gave a lot of time in order to do that. And as you in the audience can probably well imagine, for a small firm like ours, trying to get our message out to the wider world, this was a hugely important moment for us. So let's start by looking at that problem that we believe requires attention. What is the real impact to the P&C sector of not being able to see and understand all risks to all stakeholders? And contrary to the dubious maxim, what you can't see can't hurt you, it can damage you very badly indeed. So let's start off with underwriters, right? So underwriters can't see 100% of the risks that they write. It's just not possible. We know that. And if the insurance sector as a whole has existed for hundreds of years without inspecting the majority of those risks, then surely it's not really a major performance issue for the industry. We can live with that. Well, McKinsey looked at this over the past 30 years and defined the performance criteria dimensions that separate the bottom 20% of performers from the top 20% of performers in P&C. What did they see were the key differences between them? Between best and worst, there's very little difference in terms of how they spend their money. Almost no difference in loss adjustment and expense ratios. Outside of the underwriting part of the business, capital leverage and investment strategies deliver meaningful, like single-digit impact. So the difference between best and worst has some impact there, but that's outside of the core part of the insurance business. And therefore, you shouldn't really be relying upon that to steer the ship in stormy seas. The only factor which consistently and meaningfully delivers performance delta between the best and the worst is pure loss ratio. 12.2% difference between the top quintile and the bottom quintile. That's the game changer. And how do you lower your pure loss ratio? You avoid the worst risks, the landmines. You price all the risks that you write appropriately, and you find a way to help the policyholders improve their loss prevention capability. But to do those three things, you need to see and understand the risk. Now, is seeing risks important for the agents and the brokers who tend to be closest to the insured in most markets, but can often be seen as middlemen? You would say yes. The percentage of insurance claims which are denied primarily because there's a mismatch between what the policyholder thought was covered and what the policy actually intended to cover is around about a fifth of all claims, and that's in mature markets. And then the proportion of those denied claims, which are subsequently pushed back onto the insurers at arbitration, is around about a third. So looking at that, one can easily argue that the key advisor to the policyholder, the intermediary, still has a lot of hurdles in front of them that are stopping them from getting that meaningful insight into the policyholder's risk transfer needs, and then transferring that and translating that into adequate policy coverage. And of course, for claims management departments, what's going on there? Well, year on year, the contribution that loss adjustment expenses has on a combined ratio sits around about 21% on average in P&C, and it's stubbornly refusing to get any lower. On top of that, it's estimated that 5 times more fraudulent claims go undetected than those which are found and denied. So there's clearly a massive need to get more into the weeds on each and every claim, but at the same point in time, there shouldn't be a tolerance for spending more money overall on loss adjustment expenses. So those are two opposing forces. And last, but by absolutely no means least, the policyholder. Not enough of them see and understand the underlying risk issues associated with their business. So they can be blinded to simple improvements they would make that would stop their business going up in flames. In fact, the National Fire Protection Association, the NFPA, which is like the guru on fire worldwide, they state that in their investigations, they show that 93% of fires where the installed sprinkler systems were ineffective at controlling the blaze, the reason for the failure was human error. And the most common of those errors was somebody simply deactivated the system and forgot about it. So, particularly in SME, business owners and managers are not loss prevention experts. It's not their core competency. Couple that with the fact that most SME businesses have less than 1 month cash buffer before they go bankrupt. It's obvious that they really need, from a risk protection standpoint, essential tips on stopping losses from occurring in the first place. And they need that from someone who knows what they're talking about. So the problem across all of those different stakeholders really hinges on information imbalance, on information asymmetry, on all sides of the risk management and risk transfer equation. So what would be the solution that would help to improve that? So there are already very well-established methods for dealing with that today. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see a representative of the excellent subscription services that are out there right now. Some of them focused on geographic information systems that tell you more about catastrophe and neighborhood risks at a location. There are some out there which use publicly available databases or third-party subscription data sets, wrap that up to infer information about a particular property, like estimated replacement cost values. And that's particularly prevalent in North America. And then you have the newer players that apply computer vision onto satellite imagery to be able to tell you some basic property features from outside, such as the roof type and the roof condition. So all you need is the property address, and you can gain a lot of information. On the other side of the equation, on the right-hand side, you have that conventional on-location inspections that are typically employed for more complex property or large claims. So a surveyor or adjuster with expertise in a particular property, whether that be manufacturing, historic properties, hauling machinery, power generation, or whatever, they go there and they do that work. Obviously, this type of method will get you down to the maximum granularity with respect to details, but it takes time to execute and can be expensive. So that leaves a substantial gap between the insight that can be gained by just knowing the address and the insight that can be gained with sending an expert, a professional to that location. And those options sit at really broad extremes. So what we do at Virtual EDII with our platform, Virtual Risk Space, is we fill that major gap. We do that through things like remote video inspections, self-guided inspections by the policyholder, data-driven risk assessments, aggregated analytics for multi-property policies, and more. Plus, importantly, we recognize that we need to integrate with those offerings. So we take data from those existing service providers, process it through our risk assessment system. And we also have an independent network of surveyors and adjusters that provide that boots on the ground resource where it's justified. Now, how that all works is best described by a short video. It's only a couple of minutes long. That will show you, first of all, how Virtual Risk Space as a platform does that job. But also importantly, it'll show you how it integrates with one of DXC's flagship platforms, DXC Assure for commercial and specialty. So I'll come back to speak to you in a couple of minutes once this video finishes.
For an insurer to deliver superior results in today's market, it is essential their understanding of risk is based upon the most up-to-date, relevant, and insightful information available. In this video, we demonstrate how DXC Assure for commercial and specialty works seamlessly with Virtual Risk Space from Virtual EDII Technologies to gather the risk inspection information you need for each and every property you insure. When an underwriter reviews a submission in DXC Assure and wants more information about the property, they can simply request an inspection to be conducted via Virtual Risk Space. In this example, the recent loss history is blocking the underwriter from offering competitive terms, and they know that an inspection which can be conducted quickly and cost effectively will tell them precisely what the real and present risk quality situation is. The property information within DXC Assure that is needed to automatically define the inspection type is transferred to Virtual Risk Space. Within Virtual Risk Space, policy data for the property location, occupancy type, and coverage allows the system to automatically select the appropriate survey input form. The user assigns an appropriate inspector, whether that be a company employee, a frequently used third-party surveyor, or someone from virtualized network of independent inspectors. Finally, they indicate the date for the inspection, and the job is now booked and issued. If the inspector can physically visit the property, then they use the virtual risk space mobile app to complete the survey form. The structured questionnaire presents them with step-by-step questions and multiple choice answer options so that they can quickly and objectively characterize the property. An extensible set of rich multimedia evidence can be pinned to each answer. This may, for example, include a short video, a photo, an audio note, or a document supplied by the policyholder. If the inspector is unable to visit the property, the video call function within virtual risk space allows them to remotely conduct the inspection through the smartphone of anyone who is on site. The inspector can record videos, take high-definition photos, and grab GPS coordinates, allowing them to fulfill the same quality of inspection as if they were there in person. With the desktop version of virtual risk space, the remote inspector follows the same structured questionnaire used in the mobile app. Once the inspection is completed, the results are issued instantaneously. Virtual risk space has a unique scoring engine that generates a numerical representation of the risk quality at the property, exactly what the underwriter needs to aid their decision making. That engine is powered by a continuously learning probabilistic model, the first of its kind to be employed for property risk inspections. The detailed supporting evidence can be accessed at any time in the future, should the need arise. Critical property insights from virtual risk space are automatically transferred to DXC Assure, and the underwriter can immediately see the impact it has on the technical price rate, as well as being able to see the full inspection report. With this information and evidence, the underwriter can proceed to write the business, safe in the knowledge that they have used the most complete, up-to-date, and relevant property information as a basis for their decision.
Okay, so the budget didn't quite extend to a Morgan Freeman voiceover, but hopefully next year we'll have the budget for that. So what you see there will allow any individual risk or claim to be seen and understood. But the data from those individual inspections can then deliver much, much more. Okay, so on the left-hand side of your screen at the moment, you see portfolio visualizations that are available in virtual risk space, so that the underwriter, the intermediary, or the insured can get an aggregated view of what's going on across dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of properties, right down to being able to assess accumulation potential in specific territories. And secondly, the data gathered from those risk and claim inspections is entered into that probabilistic model mentioned in the video. So you see that excerpt from that on the right-hand side. That model is based on a machine learning technique called Bayesian belief networks. That allows the risk assessments to become more accurate over time. It allows things like property factor combinations to become red flags. They're not human-based, but modeling. The computer actually predicts that. And then to detect anomalies in claim submissions and stuff like that. So, but the key here is that the property and casualty sector has really fallen behind, or is behind, where the health and the life insurance sectors are with respect to learning from data from historical submissions, historical claims, and from the wider world. And we're trying to change that. So that wraps up what problem we're addressing, what solution that we have brought to bear, and that's what the invitational saw. So then the next question is, or the focus we bring ourselves back to, is why was being part of that DXC invitation important for us as Virtual? To do so, we need to start by looking at our long-term vision as a company, which is to enable the industry to move towards dynamic risk premium pricing and continuous monitoring of property assets. And then the step-by-step plan to evolve our offering over time to get to that position. And like any good plan, the trajectory is exponentially upwards. This is what prospective investors love to see for very obvious reasons. It's what prospective customers want because they can get a good product today, but a substantially improved offering year on year, month on month. Plus line upwards simply looks pretty cool. But the reality for any startup like ourselves, that a smooth line on paper is a jagged and jarring line in real life. For example, we introduced tools like smart glasses for live streaming of inspections over 3 years ago, long before the pandemic, long before it had ever been heard of elsewhere. And it created a good initial buzz, but it ultimately failed. The cost of technology at that stage was too high. And arguably more importantly, having a live streamed inspection without the next step of turning that into a substantiated risk assessment didn't move the needle enough for an underwriter. But conversely, something like portfolio analytics, which we completed last year, that allowed for that type of analysis and visualization you saw there, plus accumulation management. We thought of that as something further down the line, pigeonholed for further down the future. But we heard from our perspective of customers that this was a burning issue and a need. We were able to develop the required database frameworks and user interface within a couple of weeks, and it created an unexpectedly high value from day one. So the reality is that nothing really ever goes to plan. And if it does, then you haven't been ambitious enough. What is important, though, is failing early and spotting the unexpected opportunities that might come along that could have a multiplying effect on your journey. That's where something like the DXC Invitational really came along for us, and the subsequent partnership that came out of that. So this year, that tech partnership with DXC, in conjunction with one of our planned initiatives, which was dynamic risk scoring, plus one totally unplanned initiative, which was connecting reinsurance capacity to local brokers via our platform, really helped us to accelerate. So why was it DXC was the right partner for us? Why did so much come out of the invitational for us? Well, firstly, for any potential partner to a startup or an Insurtech like us, it needs to be a short courtship that leads to a long marriage. We learned the very hard way that often potential suitors that come along are in for their own gain, or have one eye on you and an eye on someone else, or the initial spark dies quickly and you're in now in a loveless union that produces nothing. We don't have the luxury to devote our limited resources to time wasting. And the DXC Invitational was unique amongst the programs that we put ourselves towards, in that they didn't make us jump through a lot of hoops before we got on stage. So Maria talked about the selection process. It looked fairly complicated. We didn't see that so much. They took information from us, they processed it, did a lot of digging on publicly available information, and then came back to us. They didn't make us do a lot of work before we got to the selection. And the benefit of the selection wasn't simply publicity or inclusion in a short list about Insurtechs to watch, or a cash prize or something like that only. It was the potential to be part of their ecosystem, not just for a year, but for good. But in saying that, publicity is still good. Right? And DXC has a certain gravity about them. They're a big company, well-established brand, and by association with them, Virtual Eye can draw some potential customers towards us. We can experience their gravity. But that's a passive mechanism. As Virtual Eye, we need things to move faster than that. And that's where the gravitas becomes important. Gravitas meaning that DXC treated us with a high seriousness, a sense of almost parental responsibility towards us. That manifested itself in actions like getting us in front of various sales teams that they have around the globe, so we could show them how the virtual risk-based platform works, arm them with case studies that are relevant to the client base that they have, and then let them go off and prospect on our behalf. So DXC's natural gravity might have pulled stuff towards us, but the seriousness that they treated us with was when things started moving. A classic trap that any startup will fall into, and we did, is thinking that the combination of an amazing value proposition plus a nice user interface plus a good pricing model will bring customers flocking. You'll either build it and they will come. But the reality is that no matter how good you are, distribution matters. Almost half of the Fortune 500 work with DXC. Last year, they facilitated something like $83 billion worth of premium flow in the London market, which around 66 billion was just Lloyd's alone. So for us, with 30 people, and last year at that stage, at the Invitational, we had about 15. No amount of cold calling or leveraging on our personal networks can give us even a fraction of that type of access to the companies that like what DXC can. And even more importantly, DXC has access to the decision makers in those companies. Also, as a small team and team of mostly first-time entrepreneurs, many of the problems that we've come up against are things like long procurement cycles that become a barrier to a sale, or a difficulty in estimating what resources are required to do an integration, or difficulties in understanding the regulatory environment in new territory. Those are all problems that are new to us, obviously. But a large, well-established partner like DXC has been there, done that, seen it all. And they can easily advise us on the best way to solve these problems. And finally, a very important lesson, the market is there to be served, not to be cracked. That's not just some sort of basic linguistic difference or some sort of altruism on our behalf. It is a subtle, but it's a very important philosophical difference. At the exuberance of an early stage startup, it's very likely that you'll get carried away with the concept that you have something so revolutionary and so disruptive that you kind of deserve to get into the marketplace and shake it up. After all, you've taken a bold risk, your investors are backing your ideas, and now the market kind of needs to be reshaped, be attacked. Maybe that works in other sectors, but it doesn't work in insurance. The market should be served. And before you can serve the market, you need to understand it from a position of empathy, not from a position of ego. And what we learned from the DXC Invitational process and the subsequent integration with DXC, and also from interfacing with Caroline and her ventures at the Digital Minds and EDII, was that service to the market, servitude to what the market needs, is the only position you should be in if you want to develop a sustainable business. So overall, for VirtualEye and the other Insurtechs that are part of that DXC Invitational ecosystem, we gain exposure, we gain credibility, we gain market insight that we could have never developed organically. Nor could we have obtained that if we had partnered with a company that wasn't so well established into insurance. So they really help our voice cut through that noise. So with that, I will hand back to Caroline for the next phase of the discussion.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for a really interesting presentation there. Everybody in the audience, if you'd like to ask a question to Ryan or to Maria, please feel free to come off mute, put your hand up, your virtual hand up, or also please do type it in the chat. Ryan, we've got one question come in already, a couple of questions in fact. You shared a plan of your roadmap. Somebody's asked, what future risks are on the horizon for you at VirtualEye?
I assume that, let me just turn my video back on. I assume that by future risk you mean in terms of types of coverages that we look at, or
I think that's what that looks like, yeah. Yeah.
Right, so again, you plan, but then you do something differently. A lot of this comes down to a matching of where your infrastructure is already serving, like property, and then what does it naturally lean into based upon an opportunity. So things that have come on very recently are cyber, on that, because there's a combination element there on cyber of we can integrate with providers that do remote attacking and hacking of websites and company infrastructure, the white hat stuff, plus also the in-person inspections or on-premises inspections to look at security of the data infrastructure. Other things that come on recently, and again, this is more, seeing an opportunity and then being able to match the infrastructure, stuff around about carbon management. So, a hot topic after what we had in Glasgow in the last few weeks, whereby inspections of forests at a ground level are required in addition to satellite imagery in order to guarantee that the forests that are being built there are sequestering the type of carbon which is, or the volume of carbon which is promised, which is linked to an insurance policy. That's the sort of stuff that on a white sheet of paper, you could have never have made up off the top of your head. But by having your aerials up into the market, and by working, say, with people like DXC, you can say to you, why haven't you thought about this in this territory? Just match it to the new infrastructure. So plans are great, but being able to be reactive to those two opportunities is king.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And you're absolutely right. Who's got that crystal ball at the moment, I think. Helen Stanway has put a question. Helen, would you like to come off mute and ask your question?
Yeah, if I can, I'll even come on camera. Hello, lovely to see you again. Really enjoyed the presentation. Thank you. So I love this, big fan of the solution. Love what you're doing, and it's great to see your progress actually from when we saw you, whenever it was. So I see that this is absolutely in the servicing piece. You can get breadth, you can address claims. But for me, there's still that big leap in terms of how do we actually get it to impact insurance product? So is it new coverages, different types of coverage, different perils, trigger points? How have you managed to kind of get into that space, or have you managed to get into that space?
The short answer on that, Elaine, is we haven't, right? Because, and I'll tell you very simply why, in one respect, is that there's only a certain amount of appetite for innovation at one stage. And in fact, in some cases, like for example, recently in Asia, in talking with companies there, we have had to reduce the publicity of certain elements of our offering. We had to make it more simple, because some of the companies that we're interfacing with, plus the advisors in that market, said, you know, don't go too heavy too quick. We want to be able to get in on something pretty simple, like remote inspections only, or we really want to deal with sorting out the core of property or business or risk policies, and then think about more advanced stuff further down the line. There's that element of it as well. So I don't mean to sound arrogant, but you know, the offering is kind of ahead of where some people's ability to chew it down is in there. But the other aspect is that when you're, you know, practically speaking, when you're trying to run a business like this, your creative thinking is not necessarily blue sky. You are focused on trying to develop what you're doing, and you're a little bit blind to that. And that's why having a wider ecosystem of advisors and people who can say, you know, if we could offer X or Y to the market, if we could bring a new product in here, and that's the type of product that I imagine we can lean towards that. But when you're in the fog of running and growing an existing business, it's very difficult to be creative. That's my honest feedback on that. I wish I could be more.
Oh no, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Helen. And I've got another one coming in. Question to both Ryan and Maria. Ryan, I'll go to you first. The question is, what other Insurtechs are on your watch list? So I guess to you, Ryan, who's impressing you? And to you, Maria, who are you hoping maybe either the organisation or the category of organisation to catch in your net next time? Ryan, who's impressing you at the moment?
Well, I think I've looked towards the Americas as where there has more of a momentum on Insurtechs and trying to get inspiration for what they're doing. Like, for example, BetterView, which is about 10 years old in the US, they do something very cool on that geospatial recognition stuff, you know, determining roof type and condition, all that. But very importantly, they recognize the benefit of ecosystem. So they've created a partner hub that brings in other Insurtechs into that. And in fact, they've brought in another DXC alum being Hazard Hub in there as well. So it's companies like that, like BetterView, that I particularly like. Another one that we like and we're recently partnered with is the company Navis. Now, they're not necessarily an Insurtech, but they're into the 3D modeling, digital twin type of thing, for scanning internally into properties. So by getting an insurance lens on them, we can partner together to create subsidized models inside of more complex properties that benefit both the insured, they can use it for maintenance and project purposes, but also the insurers. The insurers. So it's those sorts of ones that I particularly like, like the likes of BetterView and Navis.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Ryan. Maria, how about you?
I can't put the video on, so that's why you can't see me.
No worries.
So from my perspective, it's interesting that Ryan mentioned about what they're trying to look at in terms of how do we look at carbon footprint and how we can potentially help insurers understand how they ensure that aspect of things. And it's one of the things that happened about a year ago. I was looking at all the various clients that we were with, and did quite a lot of research around what do they have in their plans for the future. And what became very obvious is that sustainability is a big hot topic for all of them. So one of the things I was looking at is there anything that we can do in that space? Is important to all of us, but clearly it's very important to insurers. So I've been looking at companies, and some of them were part of the initial list of Insurtechs that didn't make it to the 10 because the competition was so strong. So, but they were looking at similar kind of things, satellite type scenarios where they try to understand what's going on with crops, what's going on from different aspects. And I was wondering, now that I know also that Brian is looking into that, is there anything that we can do in that space? Because clearly it's important to insurance, because if we could establish, for example, what it is a company is doing to neutralize their footprint, carbon footprint, and potentially give advantage to people that are able to prove it in whichever way, with technologically, in terms of the policies that they get offered, because I also going back to Helen's question, how do we influence product? Well, that's the kind of thing that could be influencing product, okay? I can help you establish how neutral you are, carbon footprint related, and I could encourage products to be created to create that sort of very positive force for good scenario where everybody benefits. Yeah. Absolutely. So I think that would be one area where I'll be looking for.
Wonderful. Well, I hope that we are sitting here again this time next year, and we can perhaps introduce your newest partner, Maria. That would be fantastic. We could talk for a lot longer, but unfortunately we're out of time. So these things always whiz past, don't they? Maria, Ryan, Richard, thank you so much for sharing how DXC does some of that heavy lifting for us by keeping track of those Insurtech organisations and helping filter those who can bring value to the market. Ryan, thank you for sharing what that means to you as an Insurtech operation, and how partnering with a global technology giant can help add value to your customers as well. Thank you to everybody who has participated and joined us for this conversation. We will be capturing the recording, and we will be sharing the link to the recording with all of you who have registered. We'll also be sharing the contact details for Maria, Richard and Ryan. So if you'd like to delve more into the topics that they've discussed, then we'd be really happy to facilitate. So thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to perhaps seeing you again in the future. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Caroline.
Thanks, Helen. See you soon.
See you.